They said I wasn't worth investing in, but today, I proved them wrong. My voice cut through the crisp February air, echoing across Stanford University's stadium as I gripped the podium, staring into thousands of eyes. It was February 2025, my college graduation day, and I, Aretha Martinez, 23 years old, stood under the California sky, about to unleash a secret that would shatter my parents' world. David and Laura Martinez sat in the front row, their smiles fixed on my sister Sophia, their golden child, oblivious to the truth I'd hidden for 4 years. I'd built $1 million tech empire right under their noses. As I spoke, their faces drained of color, shock replacing their smug certainty. The crowd's roar drowned out my pounding heart, and I knew this moment, my moment, would redefine everything. If you've ever been underestimated by those who should have believed in you most, hit that like button and tell me where you're watching from. This is the story of how I turned their doubt into my greatest victory. I grew up in a sleek, glass-walled house in Silicon Valley, where tech dreams ignite and family secrets simmer beneath polished surfaces. From the outside, the Martinez family was a Silicon Valley success story. Dad, a software engineer at a cybersecurity firm, debugging code for Fortune 500 clients. Mom, a product manager at a mid-tier startup, always chasing the next big app. And my sister Sophia, 2 years younger, with her radiant blonde curls, effortless charisma, and a knack for commanding attention. She was their star, the one they pictured headlining TED Talks or leading a unicorn startup. Me? I was the shadow, the nerdy kid who'd rather debug Python scripts than charm a crowd. I can still hear Mom's voice at Christmas when I was 9, as Sophia unwrapped a rose-gold iPhone while I got a refurbished laptop from a thrift store. Sophia needs tools to lead, she'd say, dismissing my questions with a wave. Your coding's just a hobby, Aretha. It won't take you far. The unfairness took root early, a quiet ache that grew with each passing year. By middle school, it was a pattern etched in stone. Sophia's debate team victories sparked family road trips to upscale Palo Alto bistros, where we'd toast her with artisanal mocktails and Instagram-worthy desserts, her laughter filling the room. My coding club wins? A distracted "that's nice" over dinner, followed by, "Did you help Sophia with her speech?" I'd swallow the hurt, forcing a smile, but the sting lingered like a syntax error I couldn't debug. School events widened the chasm. For Sophia's national debate qualifiers, Mom and Dad took days off, crafting her arguments and cheering from the front row with custom posters emblazoned with her name. My hackathon victories, where I built apps to tackle issues like food insecurity, earned a quick text, "Good job, Aretha. We're at Sophia's tournament." The message was clear: Sophia was the future, I was an afterthought. The one person who saw me was my grandmother, Margaret, a retired software engineer who'd coded for IBM in the 1970s, back when punch cards were the frontier of tech. During summers at her cedar-scented cabin in Santa Cruz, she'd sit with me on the porch, her weathered hands guiding mine as we debugged my clumsy Python scripts under the shade of towering redwoods. "You've got a spark, Aretha," she'd say, her silver hair catching the sunlight. "Code is your canvas, paint something extraordinary." Those summers were my refuge, a sanctuary from my parents' dismissal. In her tiny study, surrounded by shelves of dusty tech journals and faded photos of her IBM days, I devoured biographies of pioneers like Steve Wozniak, Grace Hopper, and Ada Lovelace. Their stories fueled my dreams of building something undeniable, a future where my parents couldn't look away. Margaret's belief was my lifeline, the only voice countering the narrative that I was less than. High school tested my resolve like nothing else. I joined the robotics team, aced AP Computer Science, and taught myself machine learning from free online courses on Coursera, staying up past midnight to watch lecture videos. At 14, I won a regional hackathon with an app that streamlined food bank donations, earning a standing ovation from Bay Area tech leaders and a feature in a local tech blog. My computer science teacher, Mr. Patel, was ecstatic, calling my parents to share the news. "Aretha's a prodigy," he told them. Mom's response? "That's great, but Sophia's debate nationals are tomorrow." Did Aretha finish her sister's flashcards? I overheard through the phone, and the rejection cut deeper than any bug in my code. Determined to carve my own path, I started working evenings at a diner near our house, flipping burgers and scrubbing counters to save for college. The smell of fryer grease clung to my clothes, but I didn't care. Despite 20-hour workweeks, I maintained a 4.0 GPA, driven by a fire to prove I was more than their backup plan. Senior year brought the ultimate test. Sophia and I both applied to Stanford, she for communications, me for computer science. I'd spent years preparing, stacking my application with hackathon awards, open-source projects on GitHub, and a glowing recommendation from Mr. Patel, who called me the most driven student I've ever taught. When acceptance letters arrived, I tore mine open, hands trembling, alone in my room. I got in. I shouted at dinner, my voice cracking with joy. Dad glanced up from his phone, his fork pausing mid-bite. Good work, Aretha. That's a tough program. Minutes later, Sophia burst through the door, waving her letter. Stanford's communications program, she squealed. The room exploded, Dad leapt up, Mom rushed to hug her, and dinner was abandoned for an impromptu celebration. Champagne flutes clinked for Sophia, sparkling cider for us kids, and a family toast to our future leader. My news? Swallowed by their excitement, forgotten in the glow of Sophia's moment. 2 weeks later, the real blow landed. At a rare family dinner, phones set aside, Dad folded his hands, his tone serious. We need to talk about college plans, he said, eyes fixed on Sophia. We've saved for your Stanford tuition since you were born. It's a big investment, but you'll graduate debt-free and lead in tech. Sophia beamed, her confidence radiant. I waited, heart pounding, assuming they'd saved for me too. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. What about my tuition? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Mom shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Aretha, we only have enough for one. Sophia's shown more promise, her communication skills will take her far in tech. You can take loans or start at community college. Dad's words hit like a sledgehammer, Sophia's the future. You're the backup plan. The room spun, my fork clattering to the plate. You think I'm not worth it? I whispered, my throat tight. Mom reached for my hand, her touch cold. You've always been independent, Aretha. You'll figure it out. That night, I locked my bedroom door, tears burning my cheeks. The unfairness crushed me, a 4.0 GPA, hackathon trophies, a Stanford acceptance, yet I was less promising. The weight of 17 years of slights, forgotten awards, ignored dreams, pressed down, threatening to break me. I stared at my laptop, its screen glowing with my latest project, and felt a flicker of defiance. They were wrong. I'd go to Stanford, pay my own way, and make them see what they'd missed. The next morning, I drove to Grandma Margaret's cabin, 2 hours away through winding coastal roads, the Pacific Ocean glinting under the sun. Pouring out my pain, I expected sympathy. Instead, she gripped my hands, her eyes blazing. They're wrong, Aretha, tragically wrong. Your grit is your superpower. Code your own destiny. She couldn't fund my tuition, her pension barely covered her bills, but her faith was worth more than money. Promise me you'll go to Stanford, she said, her voice fierce. I nodded, determination hardening like steel. Back home, I threw myself into action. I spent weeks applying for scholarships, my eyes burning from late-night form filling on a flickering laptop screen. My guidance counselor, Ms. Lopez, stayed late to navigate the labyrinth of financial aid, marveling at my drive. You're unstoppable, Aretha, she said as we submitted my 30th application. I secured several small grants, $2,000 here, $1,500 there, but they weren't enough for Stanford's $80,000 a year tuition. Grandma co-signed a private loan, risking her modest savings, and I pieced together funding for my first year. Housing was next. While Sophia moved into Stanford's luxury dorms, funded by our parents with new furniture, a MacBook Pro, and a mini fridge stocked with LaCroix, I found a cramped apartment in East Palo Alto through a student forum. The place had peeling paint, spotty Wi-Fi, and noisy neighbors who partied until 3 a.m., but it was mine. I landed 2 jobs, mornings at a diner near campus, flipping pancakes and dodging rude customers for $12 an hour, and weekends interning at a scrappy AI startup, cleaning datasets for $15 an hour. My decade-old Honda groaned through the 2-hour commute, its check engine light a constant taunt, while my parents drove Sophia to campus in their Tesla, her dorm room a Pinterest dream. Stanford hit like a tidal wave. My days started at 5 a.m., coding in my chilly apartment before racing to the diner, my apron stained with coffee and syrup. Classes, machine learning, data structures, algorithms, were exhilarating but brutal, demanding every ounce of focus. I'd study on the bus, scribbling algorithms on napkins between shifts, and collapse after midnight, my laptop humming beside my thrift store mattress. Sophia's life was a stark contrast. Her Instagram glowed with sorority mixers, coffee runs at Phil's, and weekend trips home for mom's homemade lasagna, her stories tagged with #StanfordLife. I'd scroll past her posts, calculating whether I could afford both textbooks and groceries. Doubt crept in, could I sustain this grind? Then Grandma texted, "Code runs smoothly under pressure, just like you." I taped her words to my desk, next to a faded photo of us on her Santa Cruz porch, her arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling under a summer sky. My roommate Mia became my rock. A bio major with a sharp wit and a knack for baking, she noticed my exhaustion and started leaving Tupperware meals labeled Aretha's fuel in our fridge, lasagna, stir-fry, even homemade brownies that tasted like hope. One night, as I stumbled in at 1 a.m., reeking of fryer grease, she handed me a mug of chamomile tea. "You're burning out," she said bluntly. I spilled my story, the favoritism, the loans, the endless hustle. Her eyes flashed with anger. "That's bullshit, Aretha. You're my family now." Mia edited my code when my vision blurred, quizzed me for exams, and shooed our other roommates away during my study hours. She'd blast Beyoncé to keep me awake during all-nighters, her laughter a lifeline. Her support, alongside Grandma's weekly calls and Ms. Lopez's occasional check-ins, kept me grounded. Freshman year, I found an unexpected edge. My diner job taught me efficiency, balancing orders under pressure mirrored optimizing code. In Professor Rachel Kim's AI class, I applied those lessons to a project predicting customer behavior for small businesses, using real-world data from my diner shifts. My algorithm outperformed the class average, earning a rare smile from Professor Kim. "This is graduate-level work," she said, pulling me aside after class, her eyes bright with surprise. "Your perspective is rare, Aretha. You see problems others miss." Her praise lit a spark, and I started dreaming bigger, not just surviving Stanford, but redefining it. I joined the Women in Tech Club, finding a community of coders who shared my passion. Late-night hackathons in the Gates Computer Science Building became my escape, where I'd lose myself in lines of code, building prototypes with teammates who saw my potential. One teammate, Priya, became a close friend, her dry humor cutting through my stress. "You're a machine, Aretha," she'd say, passing me Red Bull at 2 a.m., but even machines need rest. Sophomore year brought a crisis that nearly broke me. The diner slashed hours due to a slow season, cutting my income by a third. With rent and tuition looming, I sat in my apartment, staring at my budget spreadsheet, panic rising. I'd stretched every dollar, skipping meals to save $10 here, $5 there, but it wasn't enough. My loan payments were due, and my scholarship checks hadn't arrived. Desperate, I made an appointment with the financial aid office. Ms. Carter, the assistant director, reviewed my file with a frown. "You're taking on a lot," she said, her voice kind but firm. "But your grades qualify you for an emergency grant of $3,000. She also connected me with Professor Kim, who recommended me for a paid research assistant role in her AI lab, studying machine learning for small businesses. The $20 an hour gig replaced my diner shifts, and the intellectual challenge was a lifeline. Working with Professor Kim, I analyzed how startups could use AI to compete with giants like Amazon. One night, poring over datasets until my eyes burned, an idea sparked. What if I built an AI tool to help small businesses optimize online ads, saving them time and money? I called it Grow Easy. In my apartment, fueled by Mia's coffee, Priya's late-night debugging sessions, and Grandma's encouragement, I coded the prototype, teaching myself algorithms between classes. I'd work until dawn, my laptop screen the only light in the room, the hum of East Palo Alto traffic outside my window. By junior year, I launched a beta version, signing up local cafes, bookstores, and yoga studios in Palo Alto. Feedback poured in, clients loved the app's simplicity and results, reporting 20% higher ad returns. I iterated late into the night, balancing lab work, classes, and client emails. Professor Kim urged me to pitch Grow Easy at a San Francisco tech conference, part of the annual TechCrunch Disrupt. "Your app's a game changer," she said, helping me refine my pitch deck with data visualizations that popped. I spent weeks preparing, nerves jangling, practicing in front of Mia and Priya, who'd cheer, "You're gonna crush it." At the conference, I presented to a room of venture capitalists and tech founders, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Grow Easy won Most Promising Startup, earning a $10,000 prize and a standing ovation. Better yet, Horizon Ventures, a top VC firm, approached me afterward. "We see unicorn potential," their partner said, offering $500,000 to scale the app. I signed the deal, stunned, but kept it secret, even from Sophia. My parents? They were too busy at Sophia's debate nationals to notice my absence. Meanwhile, my relationship with Sophia began to shift. We'd always been cordial but distant, our bond strained by our parents' favoritism. She'd send occasional texts inviting me to sorority events, which I declined due to work. But senior year, she hit a wall. Her capstone project, a communications campaign for a nonprofit, was falling apart, her research sloppy and her presentation incoherent. One rainy night, she knocked on my apartment door, clutching her laptop, eyes red with tears. "I'm failing," she confessed, her voice breaking. "My professor says I might not graduate." Part of me, the hurt, resentful part, wanted to let her flounder, a taste of the struggle I'd endured. But her vulnerability cracked my armor. "Come in," I said, clearing space on my cluttered table. We spent hours rebuilding her slides, tightening her arguments, and practicing her delivery. I taught her to use data visualizations, drawing on my Grow Easy experience, and watched her confidence grow. For the first time, we talked openly. "How do you do it?" she asked, staring at my desk, littered with code printouts and empty coffee cups. "The jobs, the grades, the app?" I told her about the loans, the 35-hour workweeks, the nights skipping meals to save $10. Her face crumpled. "Mom and Dad said you were fine," she whispered. "I had no idea you were fighting this hard." That night marked a turning point. Sophia started questioning our parents' gifts, a new car, designer clothes, saying, "I want to earn things like Aretha does." Our weekly study sessions became a ritual, building a real sisterhood I never thought possible. We'd meet at a quiet campus cafe, sharing notes and dreams, her laughter a new kind of warmth. By senior year, Grow Easy was a juggernaut, serving 50 clients across California and employing 3 Stanford students as part-time developers, all paid fair wages with flexible schedules. I made the dean's list every semester, my name a fixture on department honors lists posted outside the Gates building. Professor Kim nominated me for the Young Innovator Award, and TechCrunch featured Grow Easy in a glowing article, "Stanford Students' AI Startup Disrupts Ad Tech." I sent the link to Grandma, who called, sobbing with pride. "I always knew you'd soar," she said, her voice crackling through the phone. My parents? They didn't mention it, too focused on Sophia's graduation plans, a lavish family party, a new wardrobe, a summer internship they'd secured through their network. Then came the shock. Stanford chose me as the student speaker for commencement. I hadn't told my family, letting them assume the day belonged to Sophia. I wanted the truth to hit them like a freight train. Graduation day in February 2025 was crisp and clear, the Stanford Stadium awash in winter light. I slipped on my gown, my hands trembling as I fastened Grandma's silver bracelet, engraved with "Code Your Own Destiny." Mia drove me to campus, blasting Beyoncé and joking, "Time to own that stage, boss lady." The air buzzed with excitement, families in pastel scarves and tailored coats, waving signs and snapping photos against a backdrop of blooming camellias. I spotted my parents in premium seats, eyes locked on Sophia, who walked a few rows ahead in the processional, her blonde hair gleaming under her cap. Grandma Margaret, elegant in a navy dress, caught my gaze and nodded, her pride a silent roar. My stomach churned as I rehearsed my speech, knowing the weight of what I was about to unleash. When President William called me to the podium, I saw my parents' heads snap up, confusion etched on their faces. They hadn't expected their backup daughter here. I took a deep breath, the microphone amplifying my heartbeat. For years ago, I arrived at Stanford with nothing but grit and a dream, I began. I was told I wasn't worth investing in, that my sister was the future. But I worked 35 hours a week, built $1 million startup called Grow Easy, and graduated top of my class. I paused, letting the words land. I secured $500,000 in venture funding and a job at Google, all while paying my own way through loans and jobs. Your worth isn't defined by others' doubts, it's coded in your courage. The crowd erupted, a wave of applause crashing over me. I glanced at my parents, their faces ashen, mouths agape, as if seeing me for the first time. President William stepped forward, his voice booming through the stadium. Aretha Martinez is our valedictorian, graduating with a 4.0 GPA while building a tech empire from scratch. She's won the National Startup Competition and the Young Innovator Award. In her honor, Stanford is launching the Aretha Martinez Innovation Fund to support students who defy the odds. The audience leapt to their feet, cheering. Sophia clapped fiercely, tears streaming down her face, her pride unmistakable. Grandma Margaret's smile could have powered Silicon Valley, her eyes shining with vindication. My parents sat frozen, their pride for Sophia replaced by shock. The truth was out, their less promising daughter had outshone their expectations, and the entire stadium knew it. After the ceremony, the family section was chaos, graduates hugging relatives, cameras flashing, laughter echoing. My parents stood awkwardly with Grandma, their usual confidence replaced by stiff discomfort. Classmates and professors swarmed me with congratulations, delaying my approach. Priya tackled me in a hug, shouting, "You slayed that speech." Professor Kim pulled me aside, her voice warm. "You've made history today, Aretha. I'm so proud." When I finally reached my family, Dad tried a jovial tone that rang hollow. "Quite a surprise, Aretha. Why didn't you tell us about this startup?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. I held his gaze, my voice steady. "You never asked." Sophia stepped forward, her arm around me. "Aretha's the real star today," she said, loud enough for nearby families to hear. Uncle Mike, Mom's brother, chimed in, "You never mentioned her app, David." "Why not?" Mom flinched, stammering about limited resources. Grandma cut in, her voice sharp as a blade, "Limited vision, you mean? You missed a genius standing right in front of you." I skipped their lavish family dinner for a reception with my true support system, Professor Kim, Mia, Priya, and my Grow Easy team. The business school atrium sparkled with crystal punch bowls, elegant hors d'oeuvres, and congratulatory banners. Sarah Chin, Google's VP of AI, approached, shaking my hand firmly. "Grow Easy's a game changer, Aretha. We're thrilled you're joining us with a starting salary of $150,000, plus bonuses." Sophia and Grandma joined, awed by the network I'd built. Sophia whispered, "This is nothing like my department's reception. These people know you." Mia grinned, raising a glass of sparkling cider. To Aretha, the boss who coded her own destiny. Later, Mom texted, "Please come to dinner at the house. We want to celebrate both our girls." I showed the message to Sophia and Grandma. "Too late for that," Grandma said, her tone firm. Sophia hesitated, her eyes conflicted. "They're trying, but this is your day, Aretha." We went anyway, driving to the rented Palo Alto mansion where relatives had gathered. Conversations hushed as we entered, then erupted in enthusiastic greetings. Aunts, uncles, and cousins swarmed us, asking about Grow Easy and my Google job. Dad approached, his joviality forced. "There's my successful daughters," he said, as if he'd always championed me. Uncle Mike laughed, cutting through the tension. "You didn't know your own daughter, David. How do you miss $1 million startup?" Mom's eyes welled up, her voice shaky. "We had to make tough choices." Grandma snorted. "Tough choices? You chose to ignore a prodigy." I raised a hand, my voice calm but firm. "I've always been this person. You just didn't look." Dad offered a new car as a graduation gift, a gesture that felt insultingly small after years of neglect. "Thanks," I said coolly, "but I bought a Tesla with my startup money." The room went quiet, relatives exchanging glances. Sophia spoke up, her voice clear. "Aretha's success is hers alone. I'm proud to be her sister." Uncle Mike nodded, turning to Dad. "You've got some explaining to do, David. Why'd you bet on one daughter and not the other?" Mom tried to deflect, but the family's scrutiny was relentless, their perception of my parents shifting. The daughter they deemed less worthy had redefined success, and their narrative was crumbling. Weeks later, I moved into a sunny Palo Alto apartment, using my competition winnings for the deposit and sleek, minimalist furniture, a far cry from my East Palo Alto days. I started at Google, leading an AI team, while Grow Easy hit a $2 million valuation, employing 5 students with fair wages and flexible schedules to balance their studies. Sophia took a job at a nonprofit focused on tech equity, inspired by my journey. "I want to help kids like you," she told me over coffee at a Palo Alto cafe, her eyes earnest. "Kids who are told they're not enough." Our sisterhood, once fractured by our parents' favoritism, had grown into something real, built on mutual respect. We'd meet weekly, hiking trails in the Santa Cruz Mountains or grabbing tacos in Redwood City, sharing dreams and laughter. My parents reached out, requesting a lunch at a neutral San Francisco bistro, far from the Palo Alto mansion's tension. The setting was understated, wooden tables, soft jazz, the hum of city life outside. Mom spoke first, her voice careful. "We've done a lot of thinking, Aretha. We misjudged you, and we're sorry." Dad, less comfortable with vulnerability, added stiffly, "We didn't see your potential. That was our mistake." The words were a start, but they couldn't erase years of dismissal. The hurt child in me wanted to reject them, to mirror their neglect. But the woman I'd become saw a chance for something new. "I'm open to rebuilding," I said, my tone measured. "But it starts with seeing me for who I am, not who you wanted me to be. And it means acknowledging the harm your choices caused." They nodded, Mom's eyes glistening, Dad's jaw tight. "We favored Sophia," Mom admitted quietly. "We thought she was the safer bet. We were wrong, and it hurt you deeply." The accountability, though imperfect, opened a door to possibility, though trust would take time. One spring evening, I visited Grandma Margaret's cabin, the Pacific Ocean glittering beyond her porch. She handed me her old IBM badge, a relic from her coding days, its edges worn but proud. "You've written your own destiny," she said, pinning it to my jacket. "I kept this for a granddaughter who'd understand its weight." Tears pricked my eyes as I hugged her, the woman who'd seen me when no one else did. Inspired by her faith, I launched the Aretha Martinez First-Gen Tech Scholarship at Stanford, funding students who, like me, faced financial and familial hurdles. The first recipient, a Latina coder named Elena, was supporting her siblings while studying AI. Meeting her at the scholarship ceremony, I saw my younger self, determined, overlooked, unstoppable. My parents attended, standing quietly as I spoke about building ladders for others to climb. Afterward, Dad approached, his voice softer than I'd ever heard. "You're creating something meaningful, Aretha." Mom added, "You've turned your pain into purpose." That's rare. Their words mattered, but I'd learned a deeper truth: my worth didn't hinge on their approval. Months later, standing on a Palo Alto hill, Silicon Valley's skyline glowing below, I traced the words on Grandma's bracelet: "Code your own destiny." My victory wasn't proving my parents wrong, though the satisfaction was undeniable. It was proving myself right, knowing my value had always been there, coded in every late night, every line of code, every choice to keep going despite their doubt. My journey had forged a strength I might never have found on an easier path. Sophia and I grew closer, planning a summer road trip down the Pacific Coast Highway, our bond no longer defined by comparison. My parents, slowly earning trust through consistent effort, joined us for occasional dinners, learning to see me as I was, not as they'd imagined. I mentored Elena and other scholarship recipients, hosting coding workshops at Stanford, watching their confidence bloom. If you've ever been underestimated, told your dreams were too big or your worth too small, know this: your value isn't in others' eyes. It's in the destiny you code, the challenges you conquer, the spark you refuse to let dim. Share your story below, and if my journey resonates, hit like and subscribe. I'm Aretha Martinez, and this is how I turned doubt into triumph, not for their approval, but for the truth I always knew: I was enough.